So yeah, this is not ideal. Um, as you can see on the top of the screen here, this is retweeted by Lin Dunn. This is not what you want to see if you are um like a fan of the Indiana Fever. Well, not necessarily if you're a fan of the Indiana Fever, you're a fan of Caitlin Clark because you're the Fever. It is what it is. But this article from Annie being retweeted by Lin Dunn does not really bode well. For me, this is someone in the in the organization who is, let's be real, has like essentially tenure in that organization, who is one of the most important pieces in that organization. Like, I mean this when I say this. Lin Dunn was the coach when they won a title. She was a big part of those Seattle Storm teams in the early 2000s. And look, this article is not that bad. It's an Annie Costable article. I don't know why people are calling it a hit piece. There's only two things that I'm like, not even that there's an issue with it, because she states in this that the toughest job in the WNBA is coaching Caitlin Clark. And there are definitely, I'm not going to say major implications, but there are light implications that Caitlin Clark, or there are parts of this article that can absolutely be interpreted as Caitlin Clark is a problem. And and people call this a hit piece. It's not. I reading through this, heard calling her a liability, and I think they called her, what was it, like a sitting duck during hunting season is what they referred to Caitlin Clark as. And look, I actually don't care that Annie Constable's written that about Caitlin. Considering the amount of actual hit pieces that have been written on Caitlin, this is not one of them. This is not one of them. This is a pro Stephanie White article. But there are enough negative references towards Caitlin Clark that I'm like, how, as somebody who is, I don't even know what exactly her role is, but someone who's high up in the Fever. Like, Lin Dunn is high up in the Fever. Has a role that she's there sitting on the bench, or not sitting on the bench, she's there at practices sometimes. Like, she is heavily involved with this organization. Maybe not as involved with the team, but she is still heavily involved with this organization. She's part of the furniture there in Indiana. And she's out there retweeting an article that absolutely lightly implies that their star player is a problem. And that Stephanie White needs to be given grace because, it's how is she meant to, what she meant to do. It's, she's coaching this team, or she's coaching a team with Caitlin Clark, what she's supposed to do. Like, Caitlin Clark is tough to coach, and it's like, I'm going to be real here. This feels like it is everyone around the Fever organization. And I'm not saying, and again, I am not criticizing Stephanie White here, because Stephanie White has said nothing. Like, Stephanie White has said nothing here. This is not an anti-Stephanie White thing. And I feel like the negativity towards Caitlin Clark that it appears from inside the organization feels more like it is from the higher ups. Like, some of these weird things. And you can see it. Like, we've joked that Stephanie White is the franchise player of this team. It looks like Stephanie White's the franchise player of this team. Because, again, someone really high up is retweeting a piece that, I mean this is an article that's mostly there to hype up Stephanie White. But you also have to take into account that in this scenario, it is very difficult to hype up Stephanie White without putting down Caitlin. Because there have been massive shortcomings with Stephanie White as coach. And anyone will tell you that. Even her biggest fan will tell you that she's not coached well the last couple of games. But you can write off her bad games as a coach by going and saying, well, what she's supposed to do. She coaches Caitlin Clark. Like, she's meant to have a good defense. Well, how's she meant to do that? She coaches Caitlin Clark. She's like meant to have people are going mad at her in the media. Well, she coaches Caitlin Clark. Like, it's always going to happen. This is a completely fine article by Annie Costable. that is now completely, in my opinion, blown out of proportion by a Lin Dunn retweet, who is, again, incredibly close in this organization. There are a few people, if Kelly retweeted this, I would have a bit more of an issue. Because if your GM is retweeting an article that essentially, I'm not going to say fully blames Caitlin. Like, there's positive things about Caitlin written in this. This is so far from a hit piece. It's unbelievable. But there is absolutely light implications that can be interpreted as Caitlin Clark is a problem. And everyone knows that if you're in that position for a team, you're not going to say that. Heck, even Jeff Pagliocca didn't do that. He criticized Angel Reese, basically saying we need to see more from her, which is bullshit. Like, as a GM, like, I'm sorry, she was playing fucking point guard last year. Like, you built a team where Angel Reese was taking the ball up. That's on you. And like, Jeff Pagliocca is definitely going to lose his job if the Sky keep shit in the bed. But like, it would be like Jeff Pagliocca retweeting the Annie Costable, let's be real, the hit piece on Angel Reese. And in a lot of ways, you could argue the hit piece was justified for Angel Reese, but it was a hit piece. It's one of those things again, like, and Angel wasn't wrong. She just went and went about, well, criticizing your teammate in public isn't the ideal scenario. But yeah, it's one of those things now where I still think all the fully extreme side, like Lin Dunn and Stephanie White, are in cahoots with Dan Danick, and they're trying to sabotage Caitlin Clark as a human. I don't think it's that. And I would be shocked if it's that extreme. But it's very clear from the Indiana Fever organization that they are willing to throw Caitlin under the bus for Stephanie White's to try to redeem Stephanie White's reputation. Because when it's all said and done, this pretty much is one of these situations where they are making it clear Steph is our coach. Because, I'm sorry, if you're even implying that Caitlin Clark is a problem, then Caitlin Clark could be gone. And it won't be, and I mean this when I say this, Stephanie White is not in cahoots with Lin Dunn to post this. Lin Dunn probably just liked the article, defended Stephanie White, and didn't even care or think about the fact that, it's throwing Caitlin under the bus. But at the end of the day, there's no way Stephanie White would be pushing for a Caitlin Clark trade, just like Jason Kidd did not push for the Luka trade. Jason Kidd was not that pissed off. He was pissed off that he was blindsided. He was not that pissed off when they traded Luka. I don't think Stephanie White long term will be pissed off they traded Caitlin. I don't think she would be. I think she'd be pissed off short term, especially if she's blindsided. And you better believe, like, if they were going to trade Caitlin, it will be blindsiding. You will be blindsiding Stephanie White and you'll be blindsiding Caitlin Clark. It's not going to be an Angel Reese scenario because Caitlin's never going to ask out and Steph's never going to ask to trade her. But it feels like we're getting to the inevitable that, as from the organizational point of view, like, I'm sorry, I'm pretty sure Lin Dunn has got more power in Fever than Caitlin Clark. Like, I know it's a crazy one, but I genuinely do think that Lin Dunn has got more power. She's won a title. She's been there with Herb Simon for 20 years. Like, Caitlin is the cash cow, but Caitlin's also not somebody that's going to throw her weight around behind the scenes. She's not going to do that. Like, she's going to let the team sign her backup and then draft her backup's backup. Like, it's one of those things where she's not going to throw her weight around. So the odds are, like, I mean this when I say this. Like, I don't think the Indiana Fever have got to actual serious discussions about whether or not they should trade Caitlin Clark. But I would be shocked if behind the scenes, they haven't at least once said, is this really worth it anymore? Is this really worth it? It's like, you know what? All we have to do is get off Caitlin, then we can build this team. We can do this the way we want it to. And it's like, yeah. And to be honest, people are like, oh, yeah, Caitlin Clark is a lot of the fans. Yeah, she is a lot of the fans. But they might be saying, look, and for people talking about the TV ratings don't mean anything. Teams barely make anything from merch. Like, they've already signed a TV deal. And also, when it comes to money-wise, is the one thing people don't realize. That, so the Fever Gamebridge Fieldhouse hosts 17,000 fans. The expectation is, I think the lower bowl is like 12,000 or something, or 11 or 12,000 if I'm not mistaken. And if the Fever have not broke 40, have gone below 14,000, I think, once this year. Or sorry, below 15,000. Or 2,500 people not won the games. And by the way, and that is people as tickets sold. People were saying that people that were at the game were videoing it, and they said they reckon it was about half full. And an entire section of the upper were gone. The team is getting very close. Like, the Indiana Fever made a loss that night. They made a loss. Like, if your stadium is half full, you are making a loss on operating costs. And they're getting very close to they're not going to be able to do it this season. But the odds of the Indiana Fever, if they continue to stink it up, and not closing the upper bowl next year, are already high. And whether you sell out 12,000 or are still able to get 10,000, and they'll be able to get 10,000 fans, like, you better believe they'll be able to half fill the stadium without Caitlin Clark. They've done it before. They'll be probably profiting or they'll be breaking even on gate rev, which is all they're doing this year, by the way. I reckon they'll struggle to break even on gate rev this year. And so the cash cow part of it isn't even there. But Lin Dunn going out of her way to retweet this, and a lot, again, people calling this a hit piece are like, look, it's not. It's not. And like, we all understand that coaching Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever, there is a microscope that you are under that no other coach and team is under. We get that. And there is absolute validity to saying that coaching the Indiana Fever is the toughest job for that reason. I don't think there's really that much wrong with what Annie has said at all. I do feel like Caitlin Clark being pointed as the reason why this team's bad on defense is just wrong. She's been one of their better defenders. People think teams attack Caitlin Clark because they want to score. No, teams attack Caitlin Clark because they want her in foul trouble and they want her off the floor. Like, they figured out a way to get her off the floor. That's why teams are attacking Caitlin Clark. But yeah, it's one of those things where even if an article isn't even that bad towards Caitlin, which it's not that bad, this is 99% defending Stephanie White, 95% defending Stephanie White, 5% basically saying, well, how do you expect Stephanie White to do X, Y, or Z because she has to coach Caitlin Clark? And because of that, it's irresponsible that Lin Dunn retweeted this. It just is. This article, again, isn't even that bad. But when Lin Dunn is retweeting it, that's a problem. That is a big, big problem. And the Indiana Fever's PR team has gone on overdrive. They've gone into overdrive just defending Stephanie White. Based on what? Based on Twitter narratives, based on Skip Bayless getting trolled. And all they've done is amplified every bit of this. I amplified every single thing. And we're now at a stage where it's really difficult to look at this situation as anything other than the front office are not the biggest fan, or the front office it feels like the front office want everyone to know that, Caitlin Clark is at least a fucking diva. Because again, like, Lin Dunn has had a decades-long relationship with Dan Danick. Or Dan Danish, whatever his name is. If what he was saying was really a problem about Caitlin Clark, like, you better believe Lin Dunn, who's there, would say, look, this is not, what you're saying is not true. Because again, Dan Danish has been, like, Lin Dunn's been on his podcast multiple times. They've had again, decades-long relationship. So he's losing his damn mind, calling Caitlin Clark every insult under the sun. And again, there's no issue with that if it wasn't for a relationship with Lin Dunn. You would hope that Lin Dunn would at least, like, in that scenario, if somebody is shit talking somebody that you're working with, even in life, if somebody is shit talking another one of your friends and just constantly talking about them, you would say, like, oh no, they're not that bad. Unless, of course, we all know in life that sometimes you have people you're friends with and they're just not great, or they're annoying to be around and you just get on with them, so you're friends with them, and someone else is shit talking them, but it's at the stage where it's like, I'm actually not going to defend that friend because I get it if you don't like them. And that's what it feels like here, where it's like, from Lin Dunn, it's like, look, I'm gonna let you continue to shit talk her because we get it. I get it. And that's just where it's coming down to. And this Caitlin Clark money, they've already made 90% of the money they're gonna make from Caitlin Clark specifically. Like, not saying they're not gonna make a bunch more money, but money gained from Caitlin Clark over the Caitlin Clark trade package. They made 90% of that money. And the problem is now with Fever, is I don't think people understand how low Caitlin Clark's trade value is. Offensive oriented point guards. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, what is the most money an offensive oriented point guard is making in the WNBA right now. You could argue if she played her weaker position, she could be Marina Mabry, but like, I'm just thinking starting point guards for teams. Sabrina Ionescu on a max, I guess. Sabrina is the like for like, that she's the only offensive oriented point guard making a max. Like, Kelsey Plum's making $400K under the max. Skylar Diggins is a better defender than Caitlin. She's making $800K. Like, you're looking at it where Caitlin's going to command max. She's going to command the max next year, and she's due a max next year. So, like, Caitlin's trade value, it's funny because a year ago, Caitlin Clark's trade value would have been Paige Bueckers and Dallas's, even 6 months ago, it would have been Paige Bueckers and Dallas's first pick. That's what a Caitlin Clark trade package would be. Like, if they were to trade Caitlin Clark right now, you wouldn't get Easy Foot for Caitlin Clark. You wouldn't get Olivia Moss for Caitlin Clark. Because again, people are like, oh, but like, she's a cash cow. But like, I don't think people understand 99% of the money is from the TV deal. The TV deal is where these teams are getting their money. All these player revenue and some of the stuff in the new CBA. Like, if Caitlin Clark sells 1 million jerseys, the percentage cut that the players make is not that Caitlin Clark makes X amount of money. It's split between every single player. Like, fucking Beck Allen makes the same amount of a Caitlin Clark jersey sale as Caitlin Clark does, and the Indiana Fever is the same. It becomes league jersey sales are league wide revenue. Maybe if the jerseys are sold in their in-arena shop, they can make a profit, or their team shop. But as far as I'm aware, jersey sales are considered league wide revenue. So the Indiana Fever aren't, like, it's one of those things where it's like, you're not making as much money as people think by bringing in Caitlin Clark, and especially a version of Caitlin Clark right now that is considered damaged goods. The viewership numbers on TV haven't been as good, like, are significantly down in 2025 and down in 2024. Like, I think she had an 800K game on Ion which is like bad. Like she was having, and this is in the new one. Like she was having in the old way, they used to, like, I think she had a game. She had over a million nearly every game she played on Ion viewers, and in the new way they do ratings, like that a million then is probably like 1.3, 1.4 million now, and she has 800K now. So it's like you're looking at a viewership drop of about 40% with her playing, and you're looking at a trade package of, I've said it, the trade package is probably Georgia Amor, Lauren Betts, and a first. Like that's probably what it is. Like I don't know if you go to like matching salaries. I don't even know if you could get Jordan Canada from Atlanta. For Caitlin, because she's on another year deal on a bargain contract. At 600K. You're definitely not getting AZ from Dallas. Like from Vegas, the package starts with Nalissa Smith. For the Valks, you might get just see like you could get just like you probably get the best package from the Valks, which is like Jacite, Amiher, and you give them Caitlin and get off Dantas, I guess, or throw in Vance Luton or something. But like that might be the best package you're gonna get for Caitlin. Maybe if you go to New York, you could get yourself Astier, Satu, and offload Mo Billings in that deal. But Satu looks like she can't play basketball anymore. But like, it's one of those things where I'm like, it is Satu just too small somebody on her 8th point of the game. On her 8th point of the game, while she's running up and down doing nothing in a double-digit lead while being a minus on the floor. She's too small somebody after not getting fouls. But yeah, that is pretty much it. Like it doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel good. And to be completely honest, if you're a Caitlin Clark fan, get her getting as far away from this organization as possible. Even if you like Aaliyah Boston, I'm sorry, it's more important to have a competent front office than Aaliyah Boston. And for people trying to say the Liberty just did a good job of stockpiling assets. In fairness, you've got Leo Feverish and stuff there. They aren't bad. They aren't a bad team. But yeah, it's like you're looking at the Mystics maybe. You're looking at the Golden State Valkyries in a potential trade for Caitlin. Portland don't really have the assets unless the Indiana Fever were in love with Iana Martine. Toronto definitely don't have the assets to give up for Caitlin. But yeah, it becomes a very interesting one because, again, I have money on the line. I've made a bet with Ken Swift on Twitter that Caitlin Clark is going to be traded by, or either Caitlin Clark is going to be traded, or either Caitlin's going to be traded or Steph's going to be fired by the end of the year. And I think it's looking more and more likely that it's going to be Caitlin be traded. Anyway, see you guys.